Hello everybody! What I'm going to do is show you how to make this really simple wreath using a tartan fabric. Now we've got a fabulous offering for you because for £15.99 you're going to get, and we'll pop that down for a second, a metre of fabric, and we'll have 8 different tartans to choose from. So it doesn't have to just be for Christmas. You might want a black and white one. If you're from my end of the country, you might want that to support the local football team. It could be for Easter, it could just be for a celebration. The beauty about this particular wreath is that it could be out all year round. So for £15.99 you're going to get a metre of fabric. The fabric is huge. It's 146 centimetres wide. So actually I think you'll get a little bit more than one wreath out of it. You're also going to get a 10-inch ring to get you started, which is amazing. And then we're going to include a pattern which includes not one, not two, but 3 different styles of wreaths to make. Not easy to see. The first one is the one with the little pockets, which I'm going to show you how to construct. And then instructions inside for a rag wreath and also for a plaited wreath. So the link will be in the information down below. Remember, for £15.99, choice of 8 different colours, you're going to get your pattern, which has 3 different styles of wreath. You're going to get your 10-inch round ring and then a whole metre of fabric. Now, the fabric is so fantastic. It's washable at 40 degrees, so even if you didn't want to use it for this wreath and you wanted to pop the pattern into your library, then this is there's a project for you. So just follow on now, and I'm going to show you how to construct this wreath, which I actually have out most of the year. The only thing you're going to need to add is a little bit of ribbon. Now, if you're like me, I throw nothing away, so if I get a gift, then I keep all my ribbons. I have a huge box of ribbons. You can use either ribbon or you could use washi tape, whatever you wanted to do, threads to tie your little parcels on. So that's all you need for that. And then you can embellish till your heart's content. Because this is for Christmas, then I've got some cinnamon sticks, I've got some dried orange, and I've got some pine cones. But watch now, I'm going to show you how to make it. So once you get your instructions, which I know will look a little bit reversed here, it tells you how many of the rectangles that you're going to need for the little pockets. So what we're making now are these little pockets here, these individual pockets. I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you're going to do out of your chosen fabrics, and remember we have all of the different tartans that you can choose from, is you are going to cut some rectangles. All the sizes are in the pattern. Now, I've said between 35 and 40 rectangles, and that just depends on how full you want your pockets to be. And what I like to do is to work in batches. So I would suggest at first you maybe make 10, and then you can make them in groups of 5. That's what we did in the class. So once you've got your rectangle, it's longer on one side than it is the other, and you're going to fold it right sides together. Now, the brilliant thing with a tartan is a blind man on a horse is not going to know which side is which. And we're going to bring these 2 sides together, and I like to put a pin here. I'm just going to grab my other pins and a pin here, because this is going to indicate where I'm going to leave a gap for opening, because ultimately we're going to stuff it. So I'm just going to do 3 here, and I've got all sorts of different styles of pins. Pop one there and pop one there, and this is just because I get a little bit excited when I'm doing them and I forget when I'm sewing along this long edge. And we'll do this final one. So can you see? Just pop it together and pop a pin in, and then pop another pin in. Now, the reason I like to do them in batches of 10 is because I quite like to see you know, how things are getting on. I'm very impatient. Oh, I've got 4, so I'll just do another one, bring it together, and that's the 4 that I'm doing. As I say, you can do all of them in one go, or like me, you can just do them in little batches. It also stops you getting fed up. And when I did the class, it was great because people went home with their rings started. So now what we're going to do with each one of these, we're going to sew down both the sides and we're going to sew across the top here. And remember that we're going to leave this gap for filling. Now I like to chain piece, and all chain piecing is we pop one in, then we pop the next one in, then the next one, and we'll carry on sewing in a straight line with just a couple of threads in between. It saves your threads, it just saves a little bit of time. Ideally, we're looking at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. However, it doesn't matter whether it's a bit more or a bit less. It just means that your pockets would be slightly bigger or slightly larger. Again, nobody will be bothered about that. So what we're going to do now is take them over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to sew these together. So I'm at the sewing machine now, and I've fed my first one in. I've actually got a 1/4 inch piecing foot on here, so that means I can have my needle in the middle. But as I said earlier on, you can have your seam allowance whatever you want. Ideally, we're trying to aim for a 1/4 inch. So what I'm doing is I'm sewing down here, and then I'm not cutting the threads basically, and I'm just going to feed my next one in. So can you see? Feed the next one in. Now I have a facility where my foot will go up. Can you see where it's when it's finished sewing? This is on the Brother sewing machine, which is really good if you're doing applique or if you're doing this chain piecing. So we're just going to do 4 here and pop that one in. Now when I'm finished the chain piecing, and as I say, you could do all 40, then we're going to cut the threads, and then I'm going to turn it round. I haven't cut in between. I'm just going to make sure that that thread goes behind. And I'm sewing in a yellow thread. I wouldn't necessarily sew in a yellow thread, but I just wanted to show you. Oops, what am I doing? Silly girl. I just wanted to show you, where the thread is. It's quite a difficult fabric because there is a lovely yellow thread running through. So that's the second one in. Can you see? Sewing along there. So that's number 2. As I get near the end, I get ready to feed that next one in. Feed it in. Get near the end. And then, oops, turn this one round. Feed it in. And sew the last one. And then you can cut your threads. So what we're going to do now, I still haven't separated them. I'm going to lower the presser foot again here. Just going to move that across a little bit, come a little bit too near the edge. Now this time, if you notice, I've stopped. I haven't done any reverse stitching or anything like that because I'm actually going to sew over this first piece. So I'm going to get up to the pin, roughly, and then I'm going to do a little reverse stitch. Now what I'll do now is I'll raise the needle and the foot, and then I still haven't cut those threads. I jump it across, I do a couple of reverse stitches, and then sew off the end. So can you see there what I've done? Oops, I'll get this in front of me. I'll just move this around a little bit. So what I've done is I have sewn along this top edge to the pin, and then can you see where the jump stitch is? And then I've sewn to the edge, and you're going to carry on and do that with all of your pockets. So I've now sewn the pockets. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip these apart here. We'll just work on one at the moment to show you. I'm removing the pins. And can you see that jump stitch? I'm just going to snip it there and snip it there and do exactly the same on the back. So I'm snipping it there, and I'm snipping it there, and then I'm going to get rid of any extra threads that I had. It was just where I started, so I'll just snip them. Now before I turn it through, what I like to do is just trim
that corner there and just take off. Can you see? I'm just snipping into that end. So I'm making it less bulky on this corner and on this corner. I'm going to do exactly the same here. I'm going to snip across like that. And then for this bit here, I'm just going to adjust this down so you can see. See, all right there. I'm going to snip it. So can you see I've started at the bottom and I'm just taking away that bulk. Once I've done that with all of them, then you quite simply just get your finger in and pull it through. And just take your time pulling them through. This bit's quite good to sit in front of the TV if you want to, because it's a bit mindless. And just get your finger in. And all we're going to do is poke out those corners. And you can use either a pokey tool. I'm just going to grab the scissors here. Just make sure you don't poke all the way through. Can you see? Nice little corner there. Nice little corner there. And one more corner here. All right. Don't have to be too particular. And then I'm just going to, this sometimes it frays a wee bit. Don't worry about it. Because ultimately we're going to be stitching across there. So don't worry about it. So now what you're going to need to do is to pop a little bit of tie filling inside. So I'll show you the next part. So we've got the pocket here. And this is the Vliseline Deco wadding, which is really, really soft. There's no clumpy bits in this. I'll pop a link on again for how you can get hold of this. Now, you don't want to be putting a great big bowl of stuffing in. You never want to do that. You just want to do little and often. So I'm going to grab a small piece, and in that opening that you've left, so it's a good idea to leave the opening not too big, but not too small either that you can't get your fingers in. And what I like to do is to poke my first bit of wadding into my bottom corners. It's deco wadding or tie filling you could use. You could use sort of the inside of pillows if you haven't got any tie filling. Pop it right into that corner there. You see? It's right into the corner. So I've filled that bottom corner. Then I'm going to put a little bit extra in. Now the thing with this is you're not going to overfill it, because it'll just make it difficult for getting it on. So you want it firm. So I'm going back into my top corner, back into the corner there. I quite like taking my time. It's quite therapeutic. And the bag of tie filling should more or less do you. Okay. So can you see I've got the pillow, and what I'm looking for ultimately is that when I tie it in the middle, that it looks nice. So if it was too full, if it was too firm, I wouldn't be able to get that ribbon through the middle. So what am I going to do with this hole? You can do one of two things. You can either, because you haven't overfilled it, you can take it to the sewing machine and you can sew with a matching thread very close to the edge, or alternatively you can quite quickly whip stitch these together. And I prefer, I'm going to get a smaller pin, I prefer to whip stitch them together just because I like it to be really neat. But on the class that I did, the girls actually just whipped along there with a dark thread and sewed that close. So now what we're going to do is sew this closed, and we're ready to start and pop these onto the inner ring, the inner part of the ring. So if you're hand sewn these, what I do is just get a length of thread with any needle that you want. You can use, you know, a quilting needle, you know, any needle that you've got to hand basically, and pop a knot in the end. And then what I'll do is I bring my needle sort of through the gap and to where the stitches are in place with the sewing machine, and I bring the knot in. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to sew from right to left. If you're left-handed, you can just do it the other way. And then I'm going to pop a little knot in there like that, okay? And then simply do like a ladder stitch. So I bring the needle up one side. It's hard to see because I've got dark thread. And then bring the needle, so I'm literally sewing up on that folded edge, can you see? And I'm not necessarily pulling it tight. If anybody's a knitter, this is the stitch that you would use when you you know, when you're sewing your garments together. So the needle goes up that side there, so it's not over and over, if that makes sense. And then just bring it up. Can you see I've got the needle, it's facing the direction I'm sewing. I'm not pulling this tight or anything at the moment. And then I'll just do exactly the same again. So I'm sewing just slightly inside. And this is a great way of joining. It's just called a ladder stitch. Bring it up. I'm getting near the end. You can see how quickly, even by hand, you can do it. But as I say, it's a personal preference. The class I taught, a group of ladies, some ladies had dexterity problems now, so it happens to us all. My eyes have gone. Some people are not able to use, you know, the hand needlework that they used to be able to do. They can't do that as well as they used to do. I've just pulled the needle out talking. So when you're threading a needle, don't lick the end of the thread because it makes it go all floppy. If you're going to lick anything, lick the actual needle. So I'm nearly there. I'm nearly up to the bit where the machine stitching is. So I'll just keep that up to there. And I'm there now. Once I've done that, what I can do is I can just pull gently, and it's closed. Can you see? That gap has closed beautifully. I'll just do a little over stitch here. So I've just threaded the needle there. I've got slightly too long a thread, but when you're sewing several of these, you can get away with it. Put a little knot. And then what I do is I pop my needle inside the pillow, come up. Can you see I've come up in a completely different place? And then with a small pair of scissors, just pull the thread, and the thread in the end has now all disappeared in there. So there's the pocket all sewn. So as I say, all options, and it's horses for courses, whatever you feel like doing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get some ribbon and we're going to tie this onto the ring. So if you've got the wreath kit from the House of Alistair website, which is $15.99. Remember, you get the 1 metre of tartan fabric, and there's 9 different ones to choose from. You get your 10-inch ring, and you also get the pattern, which has not just this particular wreath in, but you've also got, I'll show you, the rag wreath, and also the plaited wreath. So you've got 3 different wreaths patterns in the one. So what you're going to do is we're going to work on this ring, and we're going to work on the inside. Now the ribbon's entirely up to you. You could use a thin ribbon. I throw nothing away. So if I get ribbon on presents, gifts, chocolate boxes, I tend to keep all my ribbon. You could even use some thread. This is just a stranded cotton, and this would work equally as well. And in fact, because this is such a vibrant green, I am going to use a piece of this. So I'm going to keep it as stranded cotton. You'll need, I would say, about 3 meters of ribbon in total. Now what you're going to do is, I find it easier to actually tie the parcel directly onto the ring, rather than trying to create a nice bow and then trying to tie it on. It's just, it saves the fiddle basically. So all I'm going to do is I'm getting the thread. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the thread underneath like that. All right. Then I'm going to lay the parcel on the top. And again, I like to have a little bit longer thread or ribbon because it just makes your life so much easier. Once you've wrapped that round once, wrap it under again, and it just makes it a little bit firmer. Get it so it's in the middle of your parcel, and you can pull it tight like that. And once you've pulled it tight, this is where you can get other people involved if you want to. Once you've pulled it tight, you can then make it into a bit of a knot like that, and then create your bow. So just get that round there like that and create the bow so it pleases you. It can be a double bow. I'm going to make that slightly smaller. All right. And then literally we'll make that side smaller. This is where you can just fiddle till your little heart's content. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to snip that thread there, snip that thread there, and carry on adding the parcels all the way around the inner ring. Once you've done the inner ring, then you're going to carry on and do the outer ring. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in the one that I've done already. So as you can see, I've used a ribbon on this one, and each one has been tied on. And then just bring that one back. This ribbon here was actually found in my nana's box, and she used to do ribbon embroidery. So it's quite a nice way, because I haven't done any ribbon embroidery, of using up her ribbon, but you know, create a different purpose for it. And it just means I've got a little bit of nana on my wreath. So once I've tied them all on, and what I then did was, if I found that they were flopping around a little bit, it doesn't bother me, because once I get it into position, I just, you know, rejig it. The last thing you want to do is, move that out of the way, is to create a hanging ribbon. And all you need to do this, and this was off a gift that I got. I wrapped it round and I've just tied it at the top. And then I've added some pine cones. These are just the oranges that you can pick up at this time of the year. Now what I have done is, if I wanted one of the parcels to stay in a particular position, you could either use a glue gun, or you could just add a little stitch in there just to keep them in the right position. And as I say, you can make this as full or you know, as bulging as you want. I've thoroughly enjoyed making this. And you have got a very, very simple garland. Now, once you've made this particular one, if you make this one first, you'll find that when you are cutting your fabrics for the parcels, that you will have little strips left over. And that's why on the pattern, I've given you the option of the rag wreath, because there is nothing better than having a little strip of fabric. Now, this is one of the other tartans that are available. And what you do with this is just keep all of your strips. You can make them as fat or as thin as you want. And then to create the tartan, the rag wreath, you literally just tie it on. And that's as simple as that. So I've wasted nothing on my wreaths. I've made several of them. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Now what I want you to do is to pop over to the House of Alistair website. If you search for wreath kit, but I will put the link on, as I say, included in your kit is 1 metre of your chosen tartan fabric. You've got the 10-inch ring, and you've got the pattern. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.